Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of It's Me Speaking to You. I am, as always, your ever-faithful host, Mr. Jeffrey Wilson, coming to you live and direct from the gateway to the West, St. Louis, Missouri. And today, ladies and gentlemen, another one of those bucket list interviews that I had to do. Obviously, it was on my bucket list, and enjoyed like nobody's business the whole prep for this. I met this gentleman, it's been now, boss, 2-3 weeks at the Gentleman's Cooperative in Chicago, Illinois. This guy, very cool, very funny, great storyteller. He also happens to be a former UFC heavyweight champion as well as a 3-time Pancrase World Champion. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program. El Guapo, Mr. Bas Rutten. What's up, man?
I'm doing great. Nice intro, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you. You did it, my man.
Yeah, it's weird when you look back on that. You know, you always you realize you're a different guy then at that time. It's really weird. And don't get me wrong, I still love a good ass kicking. You know, if somebody's a real bad person, you know, I'll be the guy in line to take care of that.
To lay one out.
But
no, and that's what's up. I mean, it's the evolution of a martial artist. That's what I like to see, man. I've had the pleasure of meeting some real humble martial artists in my day. Yourself, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, former UFC vet Jermaine Andre, really who embody really that martial arts spirit. I mean, anybody can kind of focus on the external aspect of it, but I like the way you kind of you also switch it, man. You're a yin yang guy, and I dig that.
Nice. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I know, of course, you've done several interviews, but I mean, as the king of Pancrase, I mean, not a lot of people know. Well, let me pump the brakes real fast. You have an interesting story, like a lot of martial artists who got into martial arts started by. Well, you explain what it got you initially into training.
You know, I was a very sick kid. I was bullied. I had a horrible skin disease on my hands, face, arms, you know, and neck and everywhere. So, you know, kids, they don't understand that. They think you're contagious. They call you a leper. They call you, you know, all kinds of stuff. So, you know, you become that loner, the lone guy. And, like, my thing was always I was in the forest. I had a forest behind our home. We had a big forest, and I could actually go from treetop to treetop pretty much throughout the whole forest. I think I had to go maybe at 3 or 4 points in the entire forest. I had to climb down to go to another tree because it was too far away. But for the rest, you know, once I was in the trees and bullies would try to get me, there was no way they're going to get me because I was way too fast.
Junior Tarzan here.
There was a little Tarzan action, yeah. And I think that's where my athletic abilities, everything started. I was good at track and field, but, you know, needless to say, you don't like it when people say bad stuff. It's always the saying. It's not as much, you know, I've been always physically strong, although I was very skinny as a kid because of my asthma. I had severe asthma as well. Mm-hmm. So I didn't eat a lot. I was a very skinny kid, but I was always strong. So fighting-wise, I never had a problem. You know, I always would win by just pure strength and determination, anger, I guess. But it's the things that they say, you know, that really hurt you. Hey, watch out, your ears don't fall over, your hands don't fall over, your nose, and, you know, calling it up. So then finally, when I was 12 years old, I saw a movie in France, here, Enter the Dragon, from Bruce Lee, and I realized, wait. If I'm a little bit like that guy, you know, I just beat him up. And that's where my quest pretty much started. And I started, you know, looking into martial arts.
Well, and it's interesting because Bruce's story is very similar. I mean, it started, you know, he went to Yip Man after getting in a fight.
You know, it's that will do it. You know, if it keeps going over and over again, eventually you're going to have to do something. Bullies only go as far as you let them. You know,
exactly.
It's a good thing that I heard. And if you just stop it in the track, and you realize also that the bullies are incredibly sissies.
Yes.
The biggest pussies there are.
Yes.
Because that's why they pick on the weak, and that's why they're with the group, and that's why, you know, it's all ganging up on one little kid that is different. So, you know, mentally, they're not the smartest, the sharpest knife in the drawer, and then on top of it, they're, you know, they're just dumb people, and sissies, because as soon as you take the bait, so to say, call their bluff, they're gone.
Well, and in general, like you said,
my biggest bully.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
No. I got into the fight with the biggest bully. His name was Chucky. He was a real bad guy. He came from a bad family. You know, his son was his brother was in jail because of armed robbery. You know, it's bad people. And he was always busy. And after 2 years, I trained for about 4 months Taekwondo with adults. I was training with the adults. A friend of mine took me under his wing. and he took me to adult classes, and I started beating up the adults pretty fast, like in 3 months or already 4 months. So my confidence started rising because I heard these guys talk about me in the dressing room. And then I got in a street fight with the biggest bully in town, Chucky, who was always after me. And this time, they came on a bike. He was on a bike. Everybody rides a bicycle. So he, in Holland, and he and his friends came by on the other side of the road, screamed again something about leprosy or whatever it was. And this time I shouted something back. And I heard them laugh, and I looked backwards while I was biking, and I saw them all turn around, and they started chasing me. So I stopped my bike, put it on the stand, and I told myself, this is it,
Today's the day.
I'm not going to run anymore.
That's awesome.
Today was the day, and it was a glorious day for Bas. Knock out one shot. He was out. His friends were scared. Nobody had the goal to do anything. Problem was, broke his nose, so the police showed up at the doorstep. Yeah, I had to go to the hospital.
I bet nobody fucked with Bas after that, though. Nobody.
That was it, man. I'm guaranteeing you. 95% of the bullying stopped. Like it would be here and there from a person who did not know the story.
Yeah.
For the rest, everybody stopped.
No, it is so interesting, man. Like bully, I was always the runt of the litter. I didn't really get picked on too much, but always recognizing that same kind of psychological profile that it's usually the pussies, the really insecure, like really afraid cats who really have to, project that fear onto other people. So, well, yeah, good for whoever that bully was, because, we wouldn't have, 3-time world champion, UFC heavyweight champion, and, the cool cat you are now, man.
So, that's exactly what I said. I went to a reunion one time, and the bully didn't show up. and I was on stage, and I go, man, I really wanted to thank those guys. They gave me this beautiful life, so it was unfortunate that they didn't come.
You know what? I want to digress. My buddy here, who a very good friend of mine, he actually had a reunion about 2 weeks ago, and he got bullied quite a bit. I'm completely digressing, folks. This isn't about Bas, but he met the bully who knocked him out one time when they were just kids. They sat there and drank and hugged it out and cried. It was a beautiful, beautiful thing, man. The reunion was a beautiful thing.
It's a weird thing because there's some bullies out there who said things, who do not fighting. Fighting you remember, but saying certain things, and they don't even remember that. They don't even remember saying these horrible things to you. When I talk to a bully, I go, well, and with a dumb look on his face that he really didn't realize he said that. Yeah, there was no real reason anymore to slap him in the face. Because I go, if he doesn't know, he was a kid,
True.
Okay, I'll let it go, So, but it's weird. It's weird that words are hurt the most.
Yeah, that whole old adage of sticks and stones and break my bones, but words will never hurt me definitely is not true when you're so young and still trying to find your way, et cetera, et cetera. So cool, man. Obviously, like I said, thank you to the bully, man, because enter the next phase. I'm not to say the next phase, but you jumped into kind of the precursor of MMA of sorts, Pancrase, and that Pancrase is like an ancient. That goes back a ways. Why don't you, if you don't mind, tell us how you got into Pancrase and like what exactly Pancrase is, because different rules, different striking techniques.
Yeah, it's so what happened was. I met a guy. I did these martial arts shows, these comedy martial arts shows, high level, like with backflips. We would come up, like 5 backflips. We would walk up to the place where we have to do a demonstration with long sticks, short sticks, nunchucks. We did all these choreographed fight scenes, and then we added a lot of comedy to it, and that became a huge hit in Holland. And then we started traveling through Holland, doing these shows everywhere. And then TV got involved, and we started traveling through Europe, a European TV, and we started coming on TV. And, people loved the show. And then one of these shows was a guy called named Chris Dolman. He was from the organization Rings at the time in Japan. And he had a gym in Amsterdam. And he said, man, I remember you from Thai boxing. You were such a, explosive, crazy guy. And now I see you doing all these backflips and crazy somersaults and whatever you're doing. Did you ever think about free fighting in Japan? And that's what they called it at the time, free fighting. And he explained to me what the rules were. Long story short, he called me one day and he said you need to go to Amsterdam, jump in your car, which is like a 2.5 hour drive for me, because there's people here from an organization, new organization called Pancras, Suzuki, and Funaki, and they're looking for fighters for their organization. So I went over. I got into a scuffle, into a brawl with one of the guys from Rings. The organization Rings. He wanted to go real hard apparently, and I told him in the break that we didn't need to do that. That they were just there to look at us and see technique. We didn't need to try to beat each other up, but he didn't get the message. He kept doing what he was doing. So in the second break, I told him, it's okay for me, but you have to understand I will do it back now, because I'm not going to keep taking this. So now it was on, and that resulted in a fast knockout because I kicked him in the head. He went down, but he needed a bunch of stitches. So it was very dramatic, So Funaki and Suzuki, they saw that, and I saw them pointing at me, literally pointing at me and say, "Yeah, we want him.
We want that dude.
So we want that guy." And that was 2 months later. That was September '93. I was in Japan fighting for the organization Pancras, and it was weird. They had these rules, Pancras rules, that were kind of. They came up with that for the Japanese fighter. With that, I'm trying to say the Japanese fighters are great wrestlers, great submission fighters. That's their strength. Some of them really great strikers as well. But if you compare it, they're much better. A larger percentage is submission. Our submission guys are wrestlers. Then they are really good strikers. So they came up with this new system that you have to wear shoes, shin guards. And open hand strikes to the head, close fist to the body. Any strike was legal, kicks to the head, knees to the head, everything is legal for the rest. Close fist to the body, and then of course the open hands, of course, that would be easier for them also. Rear naked chokes, for any leg locks. And leg locks, you wear shoes, so they have much more traction.
Yeah.
And then there were rope escapes. And rope escapes, I heard some people say in the past, that they thought it was a stupid rule. But I guarantee you that made Pancras, that made such a great amount of fighters. In Pancras, we had a whole bunch of UFC champions coming from Pancras.
Oh, yeah.
And I truly believe that was from that rule, the rope escape rule. Now, what the rope escape rule is that, for instance, if I get you in a rear naked choke, and you're close to a rope, and you can put your foot on the rope, or you can put your hand on the rope, I have to let you go. But that results in a lost point. It's the same counts as like an 8 count. If I knock you down for an 8 count, it'll take a point away from that round. So people go like, yeah, but that's not real fighting. I say, well, as long as you make sure that you never do it, it's a real fight. But now the greatest thing comes. Like, for instance, I had... let me see, the UFC Hall of Fame stats. That was great because I never realized all the stats until I saw it. But for instance, I won 15 fights by submission, but officially that number is 42 because the stats of the UFC see that because I had somebody in submission, he would grab a rope. But what would happen then? You would get back on your feet, and now fight number 2 is on. So you got way more ring time, experience time, so to say. So one guy I submitted 5 times. And it was a 28-minute fight. So I kind of fought 5 fights because every time you have to get back up and then you continue again. So, to get better really fast, that was the perfect game plan there, the perfect rules that they have. And that's why, Frank Shamrock, Ken Shamrock, Guy Metzger, Maurice Smith, myself, they all became UFC champions. So, and I truly believe that was because of those rules. Also, it was more safe. You could fight more. Like, I fought the first year, I believe I fought 8 or 9 fights. I think 8, and the next year I fought 9 fights. You fought a lot of fights. I fought in a short amount of time, I fought a lot of fights. I think that when did I leave there? I think 1997. So in 4 years, I fought like 28 fights. So
wow.
That's pretty steep if you think about it. And then I went to the UFC.
That's 7 fights a year, yeah.
It's crazy, but you're constantly busy, and if you don't have an injury, why not keep going? So that was it, man. I loved it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a totally different kind of beast, man. It was so really cool to watch that. Again, man, I've always been a big fan, even from, like I said, Bruce Lee movies to the old school hardcore tough man days to even when it started evolving a little bit more refined with Pancrase and then moving into obviously Pride and UFC. That was kind of your next step and your next evolution going into Pride. Pride, man, that was, I mean, everybody who really is an MMA fan and purist, if you will, really, really loved the Pride. If, like you said, so many successful people came from Pancrase to UFC and Pride. So many people came from Pride to go on to do great things, Rampage, Chuck, et cetera, et cetera. And that was really that was samurai territory, man. It wasn't really win or lose. It was really about kind of the fight and how you fought, and especially with those Japanese fans. Talk to me about Pride, what Pride meant to you in your career, and the difference between the Japanese and the American fans.
You know, there's a big difference. For instance, when you saw me fight in Thai boxing in Holland, everything was first round knockout. I had one fight I had in the second round knockout because I was sick, and the rest was first round. And that looks very cool, but I had no control. Meaning I came in very technical, I started striking, everything was perfect, I get hit in the head. Oh, really? Okay, now you're dead. And then I just destroyed the guy and I knocked him out. You know, and that goes, okay, that's okay, until you start fighting really good opponents. And if they can survive the first round, you're going to be in trouble because now suddenly you have way longer to go. At every picture, when I look at pictures, all pictures of mine in Thai boxing, when I hit somebody, the facial expressions were insane. It's like I'm growling almost. I do know that in street fighting, apparently I growl, is what people say. I have no clue if I did it at fighting. I scream in fighting, but like animal-like faces I was making. So when I went to Japan, it was the audience doesn't say anything. It's like they sit, and your corner literally can be in the 20th row, and they can talk to you like I'm talking to you right now on the phone. I can exactly hear everything they say. It's dead quiet. Now, if somebody gets rocked or goes down, the place goes nuts for 5-10 seconds, and then it gets dead quiet again. You know, so it's a really weird thing. But the cool thing that comes with it is that you feel that there is no pressure. For some reason, I found out that it doesn't matter there if you win or lose, as long as you fight and give everything you have.
Yeah.
I had no pressure. When I came back for my second fight, my first fight, I knocked the guy out in 43 seconds. It was a heavy knockout. I was in the newspapers right away the next day. People started bowing to me. It was the weirdest experience. I mean, I had a couple putting a baby in my hand to make a picture with the baby, you know. And coming from Holland, I've never been in an airplane. So my first flight is a 13-hour flight to Tokyo. I've been to France and Italy, but you know, you drive there, it's Europe, you know, with the car. So to come as a guy there and suddenly people on the street, like 1 in 10 people start bowing to you, you know, this is a really weird experience. And then I saw the pictures in the newspaper, so then I realized, oh, that's the reason why they're doing it. And then the next month, when I came back, they had all the magazines. They had a lot of martial arts magazines, and that was so cool always. That's why I have a lot of footage, a lot of pictures also, because in every magazine from every fight there's like 6 pages. You know, it's really cool.
Wow.
And I was blown away. I mean, my facial, I was a completely different fighter. Like I would hit somebody full in the face, you see his head flying back, and my face is like I'm playing poker, you know. And I go like, wow. This is the craziest thing ever. I was so calm. I truly believe that all happened there in Japan. It made me a really calm and relaxed fighter.
Yeah, I mean, I would see some of them shots. I mean, you would hit. I asked you about palm strikes versus fist strikes at the Gentleman's Cooperative, but you would hit people with some of them palm strikes, and it would look like you shot them in the head. It would just be like they would drop like they got shot or something. So I can't even imagine taking one of those. So check this out. I'm a big fan of like Mike Tyson, fighters in general. You guys, I mean, do something very special that not a lot of people are cut out or equipped to do. And you've seen combat in so many different forms, man. An interesting thing I saw or listened to from the Mike Tyson documentary where he was talking about coming to the ring, like as he walks out of the dressing room, he's scared shitless. He's dreamed about this guy beating him. He's scared. The closer he gets to the ring, he's supremely confident. The moment he steps into the ring, he's a god. Nobody can beat him.
He's a god.
What is the role of fear in this? Is it something, obviously I'm assuming it has to be present and you have to control it, but was that something that played a big role in your career, the fear aspect?
No, you know, in Thai boxing I was way more nervous. In Japan, I don't know what it was. It was just maybe the realization somehow I understood that it didn't matter if you would win or lose there. You know, it was such I got the mental game, you know, like nervous. I would say, if I would get nervous, I tell myself, you know, it's not going to help you, right? Because if nerves are going to help me, it's better for me to get really freaking scared. But actually, the opposite is working. And just saying that to myself would make me calm. I would realize, wait a minute, you know, it doesn't matter. And then there was another trick I did. that I knew that as soon, you can be nervous, but as soon as the bell goes, it goes ding, you're in a bubble, I always say. It's really weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I can hear everything that comes in. You know, I hear his corner. I had the people even on the first row. It's weird. I listen to conversations from people. It's the weirdest thing, but you're in that, I don't know. It's a weird place to be, but it's a really cool place.
It's the zone. Scientists have studied that. There is a such thing called the zone.
I love that feeling. I mean, the slow-mo effects, the thing, it was the coolest. So if there would be nerves, but that's only in the beginning. But then I would simply think about that. I would go, when the bell goes. So I never had that.
Interesting.
I was really proud of myself one time, and I thought it was cool. So I'm going to say right now, it was a cool thing. I was, for some reason, the referee, who was also a very good acupressure guy, sought after guy that people from the entire world came to this referee to get acupuncture. And I had an injury, and he comes before the fight, like an hour before. He's with me, and he's working on me, and he decides to take my pulse. And I remember that he said, "Ooh, Mr. Ice." And I go, "What do you mean?" He says, "I just have your pulse." I go, "What do you mean?" He says, "It's like 55 or 52 or what."
Jeez.
And I go, "So that's good, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, but normally an hour before the fight, that's much higher."
a little more amped up.
That I didn't know, but I didn't know. But
no, I got you.
I think people overthink things also. I
don't know. You're a trained combatant. I get it, but it's like there is a certain fear of not just winning or losing, but holy shit, man, people die. There was a serious risk of physical injury. I mean, obviously you have to be supremely confident in your skills, but there's always that possibility.
What my feeling is, what I think why the people are nervous is because of other people, what other people think about it. I don't think a fighter is nervous because might break a leg or might something happen to him. I think that is all. I mean, that's not for us. I don't think that comes up in the head. I think if that comes up in your head, maybe that's not a good way to have it. But I think the main reason is that you care what other people say. If you lose, you're going to have to hear from all these non-fighters who apparently know better than you, that you suck, that you did this wrong, and you did this wrong. And some fighters can't handle that, and they start listening to it. And I always tell my students, I say, dude, these are guys. These are opinions. This guy probably likes the color black or blue, and you like green. That's really it. It is an opinion of that person who never fought, who doesn't do it, who doesn't have the cojones to do it, but it's so easy to talk about. It's so easy when you see it on TV, and in training, it's all so easy. But now do it under pressure. That's a whole different ballgame. You can be good in training, doesn't mean anything. You can have 20 black belts. If you can spar all day long. I don't care about it. If you never competed, I don't believe it. Because do the same thing that you do in the gym, tough guy, do that under pressure. If you're so good, why don't you compete? Most of the time, there's a reason that they don't compete.
Right. Interesting, very interesting. Bas breaking it down here. Well, it's like I said, I'm a huge fan of fighters in general, man, and the Dutch have pumped out some beasts throughout the years, man. And one cat who really made history in his fights in Thailand, and obviously, or unfortunately, is no longer with us. Who passed away a few years ago. Ramon Dekkers. Obviously, you knew him. What are your thoughts on him, man? That was somebody I've obviously watched for many years. He was a freaking monster over in Thailand, and in the history he made over there in those Muay Thai rings. What are your thoughts on Mr. Ramon Dekkers? Rest in peace.
He was my hero. He and Tyson were my guys. My style, my fighting style, everything is based on that and how they fought. How to generate the most force and power in your strikes. Well, you need a wide stance. You can't blade. You can't stand in one line. And especially once the kicks get involved, you don't want to do it. You can't block low kicks. You can't do anything. You shut your whole left side down if you're an orthodox fighter. It's a stupid stance. But once you open yourself up, and then people go, oh, but now you're a wider target. I go, dude. If you're seriously, if you're afraid you're going to get hit in the body, you shouldn't even be a fighter. Don't even think about fighting. How many times did Mike Tyson go down with body shots? 0. That's how many. Hey, he was wide open in front of them. Why didn't anybody do it? right? It's such a big target,
Right.
because it's impossible to go there. Your defense will automatically get better once you stand like that. Trust me, your body will adapt together with your brain. You will find defenses for it. But now you open a whole new can of worms, and that was with Ramon Dekkers and Tyson. And Dekkers, his kicks, I mean, he would kick people. You know how I met him? The first time I saw him fight was when I was fighting and my buddy was fighting. I was warming up in the dressing room. My buddy knew he was a badass. And he was a little guy at the time. I think he was 17, 16, with a mullet. Very skinny kid. And my friend comes into the dressing room and he says, "Boss, you got to come for a second." I said, "My fight isn't too fast." I said, No. You're warm. Don't worry about it. I want you to see this guy. Unbelievable kid. You know, you're going to freak out. So I see this kid, and he fought a guy who was heavier, a tattooed-up guy, like 24 years old, you know, and he was like 16 or 17, so there's a big difference. And he looked very like a little bit like a nerd, you know. And I go, "Man, he's going to get slaughtered, this kid." And my friend looks at me and he smiles. He goes, "Just watch," you know. And I remember nothing happened. And like after 1 minute, suddenly he gives a low kick. One low kick, and he kicks the guy loose from the ground. Little guy falls horizontal, and he falls on the ground. And I go, "What was that?" And then he started hitting. I mean, how can somebody so skinny hit so hard? And the way, and I was mesmerized by it. And I saw the technique. I saw his upper body flying to the side, and then his leg would follow afterwards. And I go, "Oh my God, this is how he generates so much force." So that's where the first time I met him. And then, of course, when he became famous, you know, in Thailand and knocking out Koban, the first guy who knocked out Koban. It was the craziest fight. You know, all the Dutch people in the audience, they're dancing there with the flags. The whole audience is quiet because everybody lost a lot of money with betting in that stadium. It was hilarious. If you look at that, Koban versus Dekkers, Dekkers, so the people know how to write it.
Yeah.
Google that or YouTube that. You're going to freak out if you see that fight.
Or any of my man's highlights. Ramon Dekkers was an absolute beast. I mean, and speaking about force, this is one of the beautiful things of doing this show prep. There's so many obviously different interviews and clips of you. There was one from Nat Geo. There was a Fight Science series where they start checking out different fighters' techniques and what they, you know, do anatomically to the human body. You, sir, it was obviously a pig spleen that they put into the human body because apparently anatomically they're fairly close. You did I forget what do we kind of call that kind of shot, but you punched
spleen shot.
Your spleen shot. You registered apparently about 1,300 pounds of force, and the spleen just ruptured and started bleeding. I was like, holy shit, dude.
No, it was a great thing. But when he asked me, he said, "You think you can break it?" I said, "I don't know 100% I can break it." And he goes, "Why?" I said, "Because I broke somebody's liver in a real fight." So I'm pretty sure that if you know, put it just on the other side and now you let me hit with my right hand, you know, which is even stronger. I don't know with body shots. I think actually my left with body shots might be stronger. But, you know, I'll rupture the thing. Those things I like, man, doing those crazy testing, like crash test dummy stuff like that. That's cool stuff.
Well, and they totally, those bodies are so, like, obviously anatomically correct, and they use that gel, you know, everything is so real to life. Like, you know, you really can gauge, you know, what these blows can do. Very, very fascinating study. If you want to go on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, check out Fight Science. You can find Bas rupturing a pig spleen in a human body. Check it out, man. You are a father, of course, and you're a father of a couple daughters. I am a father of a couple daughters, and I found it very interesting, a phrase that you used when talk about training your daughters and when they're out in the world facing adversity. You, quote unquote, said, "Be the crazy bitch" to your daughters. Explain that, if you don't mind.
Well, you know, they don't have as much trouble as a kid because everybody knows me here. And
I can only imagine.
Community and the gym, you know. So every day or the first day in school, when they say their name is Rutten, you know, there's always the teacher who's asking, "Are you related to Bas Rutten?" "Yes, my dad." And then right away the whole, "Guys, please make sure you never do something bad to this girl because her father's not," you know. So I always have that. That helps me.
Yes,
know, I don't have to fight. But what was the question from the dating?
You had quoted, say, if you do get into it, be the crazy bitch.
Yeah, the crazy bitch. Okay, what it means was, what I meant is to my daughters, for instance. They said, "What do I do in a street fight?" I said, "Honey, if they keep on doing, you first of all, you can never attack. You're gonna have to wait till they do something, and I want you to just headbutt them." And she goes, "What?" I said, "I want you to headbutt them. As long as you keep going, you're not gonna feel it, full in the face, And once they go down, just and if they don't go down, then start hitting. Be the crazy one. Just nothing more." If you see my daughters, are very beautiful, very female. There's no ounce of violence in them.
Very unassuming.
Make them angry.
Yes, yes.
So then, once you see a pretty girl like that headbutting somebody in the face 2 or 3 times, and then start hitting them until they don't move anymore, I think from that moment on, you'll never fight again.
Yes.
I think that everybody goes, "Don't fight her.
Right.
She's the crazy bitch.
She just looks like that."
Headbutt you in the face.
She's not just pretty. Yeah.
But that's what I mean. It's a very intimidating thing. It's a thing that I used to do as a bouncer. But I almost never fought because I was a really good talker, and I would always calm the fights down, whatever happened. I give them some beers and, let's relax here. But if it did happen, and there's a lot of people watching, the whole place comes outside, now you really pushed it. Once we start fighting, that means I at least asked you to not fight 3 times.
Yes, of course.
To please do not do that, So then it's really pushing it, and now I'm going to have to make an example. And then when I make an example, it's most of the times it's done with a headbutt, because then people freak out. They go like, and you leave a mental picture for these people. They, in the future, they're going to think twice about causing trouble in that same bar because they don't want to get a headbutt in the face.
Well, again, part of the show prep, I did see that very thing. There was a gentleman who asked you what, in a close quarters, like, "Hey, you talking to me?" kind of thing. If you know it's about to be on, you definitely suggested a quick headbutt, and you also suggested a defense if he was doing, the same thing. Drop your head a little bit, and then his head goes into your, the top of your cranium, which is never a soft spot. So if you want to go check out Bas's techniquing on headbutts or defending headbutts, go on YouTube. I'm not going to keep you too much longer, my man, but I do have a couple more questions. Part of the show prep, which was amazing, dude. You had an awesome opportunity, especially considering your origins in martial arts. You had an amazing opportunity to interview Bruce Lee's daughter, Shannon Lee. First of all, how surreal was that? And there was so much in that, and I'll just kind of, if you need follow up, I will, whatever. You got to see some amazing shit of Bruce Lee's year after year. His little booklet on very, very specific. I mean, the guy was very fastidious in his writing down of techniques and exercises. What was it like to interview her and to see all of that stuff she showed you?
Oh, it was the coolest ever, and I told her, I said, this is it for me. I love this. I mean, the daughter of Bruce Lee, he's the reason I started. He was my savior, He literally made sure that, I could defend myself. I had somebody to look up to. It was the craziest thing. And like you said, all these little I sat at his desk, his desk where he was sitting behind. I sat at that desk, and then she showed me the secret drawers that were in the desk. I saw these little notebooks, and he was just this crazy guy. Jimmy. I don't know. He was training this like Elvis and all
Steve McQueen, James Coburn.
Yeah, and he had it in these little notebooks. It would be the dates, and they said, okay, James McQueen is coming here, and then Elvis is coming here, and then you go like, wow, this is crazy. But then you flip through the pages. And there's like 1,000 sit-ups, 1,001 finger punches, 1,000 head kicks, 1,000. Everything was 1,000. 600
punches with my right hand, 600 with my left hand. Like what?
It was the craziest thing, And I go, man, I would want to steal one of these little.
I know.
I believe she had 6.
Yeah.
It was so cool. But of course, they're going to be in that the Bruce Lee Museum in Seattle once it comes.
Again, man, I was just like, just kind of living vicariously through you because we all grew up with Bruce Lee. And for me, and it's interesting because you brought up this book. When I was in my early 20s, which was unfortunately a long time ago, I did what I think all people in their early 20s should do. I went on a nice month-long road trip throughout the Southwest, etc., and I took with me the Dow Jeet Kundo. And I can't even begin to tell you, not even just from the physical side of the martial arts, sir, this was such an amazing read on how to apply the Dow Jeet Kundo to life, if you will. There were so many great life lessons. What are your thoughts on your having read that book? And such a great work, in my opinion.
It's unreal. You know, if they say he was the forefather, he was the guy with mixed martial arts, I 100% am with that. You know, and people go like, yeah, but he didn't do submissions. Well, every submission is in that book. I mean, knee bars are in that book. Heel hooks are in the book. You know, you look at the drawings he made from all the fight situations and throws, takedowns and submission moves. Man, it's all in there. And it's the craziest thing. If you look at it, you go, wow, he was far ahead of his time. And I understand that people, they you know, this rhetorical question they ask you, oh, what if Bruce Lee would come back now and he would fight somebody his own age? Yeah, he's gonna lose, right? That's what's gonna happen. But why don't we give this guy 6 months or a year to catch back up?
Yeah.
Because that's the problem, of course. It was skilled from that time. You know, and I understand, you know, he never fought in competition. You know, he fought other guys. So there's always that question. But if somebody could do it, it's that guy. I guarantee you that. And but it just needs to, you know, he needs to update. He needs to go from the 1.0 to a 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. The newest Windows version of Bruce Lee. No, but I truly, man, I think that's something, and I talk about that. You know, I do my show with Pat Miletich, et cetera. You know, we have to be careful about not just in physical martial arts getting ourselves into fixed positions that disallow us from adapting to the situation. We need to, even in our political life, our spiritual life, our religious life, we need to flow like water and not get ourselves into fixed positions. Do you understand what I'm saying from a philosophical standpoint? Oh, yeah. And I think that's why I drew so much from that book outside of just the martial arts, man. The be water, my friend. It's, you know, in the movie Enter the Dragon, do not concentrate on the finger or you will miss all the heavenly glory.
Heavenly glory.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, I mean,
I love that stuff. He was far ahead, you know.
Yeah.
Little rhymes, poems he wrote also. And, but just, you know, smart stuff. He was a thinker. You know what he was doing? He was doing that his entire life, and I wasn't. I was doing it with my submission. Like, I got obsessed with my submissions after my last loss for submission. And then I can only imagine, that was only with submissions.
Right.
He did it with everything. So, you know, I can only imagine his mind. He was always pushing boundaries.
Fencing.
You know, drinking blood and not even eating the steak. You know, like crazy stuff, doing crazy stuff to see if he gets stronger.
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting, especially after, and it's interesting, it's just, I don't know if there's a lot of conjecture on how he hurt his back. From my understanding, he was doing what are called morning glories, this certain workout where you just kind of stand with a barbell with weights behind your neck and you're kind of bend over 90 degrees and back up. And to my understanding, he ruptured a disc doing that on like the final set, which then put him kind of in traction for a long time. How did you hear how he hurt his back, and that really kind of spawned the Dow Jeet Kundo, et cetera?
Yeah, well, I thought weights as well, but you know, I tried to figure out what did the movie do. You remember the Bruce Lee movie? What did they say it was? Was it because of training?
Well, in the Bruce Lee movie, it was supposedly happened during the fight that he had in San Francisco when he was challenged by the Triads. The guy supposedly kicked him in the back, but that wasn't accurate, obviously. It was cool dramatically.
No, I think it was weights. I believe it was weights. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
So, and most of the time it is. You know, and most of the time it's also, like you said, last set or something. Maybe you're going to do something a little faster. You want to get rid of it, or you take a lighter weight, which is a very dangerous thing to do because you give it less respect. You know, if you give something less respect, then you might not really lift with your legs, but with your back. You see what I mean?
Absolutely.
A lot of accidents happen.
Very cool. Little introspective on my man's feelings on Bruce Lee, his life, the legend, the legacy. 2 more questions, dude, and I'm going to let you slide, brother. We just saw recently Ronda Rousey return. You know, she obviously did not have a good night, was dealt with fairly swiftly by Amanda Nunes. What does she need? See, this is one of those things, and you're a fighter, and I'll be able to ask this question and know what I'm talking about. Once certain fighters' codes are unlocked, Tyson, Roy Jones, etc., it's hard to reinvent oneself to create a new code for people to unlock. Does Ronda can she switch trainers and have a chance of being back to that level again, or is she so intrinsic or so locked in her style? And everybody's unlocked the code, she's almost done for. What are your thoughts on Ronda Rousey, that last fight, and her future?
I think the last fight all played in her head. I think as soon as they locked the door, they said fight, she was back at the whole fight, and especially after the first time she got hit.
Yeah.
There was no head movement, no nothing. And you heard Edmund, he was shouting, he was asking for head movement. So I'm pretty sure he worked on it. People, they give him such a hard time, but guarantee you that they worked on head movement. Otherwise, he wouldn't shout those instructions.
You're talking about Ronda's trainer, Edmund Tavarian? Yeah.
Yeah, she got cut off from the outside world, like your first fights or your first two fights. When you don't hear your coaches, you don't hear anything. You're just focused, and there's this blind thing. The thing with Ronda is all that anger and the angry face when she walks up, and all that constant anger in the head. That locks her up.
Well, that's what I found interesting. You said that needs to go. She needs to quit with that. Have more fun with it. Not make it so be all like the world's be all end all with this one fight.
For what? It's not what people say, oh, I might die there. Yeah, there's a very, very slim chance that happens. If you're a smart guy and you tap on a submission, an armbar, you won't even break an arm.
But say that whole fight. Per you're saying, like, I understand. Back in the Pride days, it wasn't about winning or losing, but now it's so much is because there's so much more money to be made. The window is so small. A loss sets you right back down to, and in Ronda's case, she lost the Roadhouse movie. She lost a bunch of money off that home fight. So, I mean, can you blame her a little bit? Not necessarily for not switching up her technique, but fighters today, they're so trying to take advantage of this small window of money, etc. You know what I mean?
No, it's there was a lot of pressure riding. Exactly what you just said. She knew that if she's going to lose this fight, then probably every movie is going to be gone. I mean, she's not interesting for movies anymore now.
No.
Why? Because she's not a professionally trained actor. And now on top of that, she lost. Done. It's like when with me, I'm with acting, I can buy and I can hide my certain acting failures with being trying to excel in kicking and punching, doing my sport. But I'm not a professionally trained actor.
Right.
Yeah, I worked hard on it, but still. That's a whole different. We're professional. It's like saying to a professional actor suddenly comes to us and he says, "I think I can fight in the UFC." We start laughing. Yeah. Yeah. But at the other way around, you have all these fighters say, "Oh, I want to be the next Jean-Claude Van Damme." Do you have any idea how hard that is? To be a real actor. It's hard to go really delve into that. It's a hard thing. I have the utmost respect for these guys. I think I'm at level 2 or 3, and they're at level 10. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a complete different sport thing, man. It's a profession. So for her now, well, she doesn't have that backup at the fighting. So there's probably not going to be any acting. There's not going to be any commercials because, unfortunately, commercials and this is how the world works.
Yes.
They focus on winners. And
what have you done for me lately?
Would I buy this product you just lost?
Yeah. It's very ADD kind of society. What have you done for me lately? Yeah, yes, Ronda, you reshaped the world of women's MMA, but you just lost the last time. So, and that's so crazy how fickle we are as a society. It's like we're so quick to build you up, but it's just like, what's the phrase? Victory has 1,000 fathers, but defeat is an orphan. It's just like it's kind of a sick aspect of our society. But anyway, check it out, man. One last question I have had on my show about 3 or 4 times, man. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, one of the coolest cats in the world, brother. Like, he really embodies that kind of mixed martial arts attitude that I talk about. He's training kids. He picks up kids every day. Like, he's just really, really a genuinely cool cat, man. Part 2, as he called it, unfinished business with Tyron. What are your thoughts on that first fight and how it went? And what do you think needs to happen in this second fight? And your thoughts on the result of that fight, Tyron Woodley versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, coming up here in a few weeks.
It's going to be a great fight now. I thought the first time Tyron won. I got to be honest. I mean, he rocked Stephen a few times. I thought he did enough to win the fight, but it wasn't, which is a good thing because now we're going to be treated for a rematch. And the rematch, now they know both each other's flaws and strengths. So they both are going to work on it. Most of the time, we're going to see another war, and that's what I truly I think we're going to see us now as well. Now you, of course, you think, hey, but now Stephen Wonderboy, he knows how to defeat him, but so is Tyron Woodley.
Yeah.
So that's why it's going to be interesting to see this fight. It was a very close one. I was leaning towards Tyron Woodley, And let's see what this one is going to do.
Well, I found Steven's comments rather insightful, where he was saying, you know, when you see, like, what we saw with Tyron, that's the same Tyron you're going to see. There's not going to be a lot of changes because he is kind of, you know, he's kind of the same dude when you go out and see him fight. He's like, Steven was saying he can make some changes to stem the tide and make some kind of difference. What do you think about that? Can Tyron make some changes too?
Well, there's always first time for everything, right?
Sure.
If Tyron, you know, and especially after he listens to that interview, I think he will change. Well, he's going to be forced. There were some things that Steven does. Well, he does a lot very well, Wonder Boy. So he has to prepare for that. But, you know, he for sure, the things that were not working, if he doesn't work on that, well, he doesn't deserve to be a champion. That's how it works nowadays. If
more takedowns, I'm assuming more takedowns has to be in that equation.
More takedowns. Yeah, but more takedowns, you know, it's coming off a big shot. You know, I think it's better to land the first big shot, get inside the head that you can actually land a big shot, and then the takedown will become easier to get. That's what I think. And,
I see him posting a lot. He's posting a lot of his pictures with obviously Dean Thomas, one of his I've had on my show as well as he's training with Sage Northcutt to kind of emulate Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's style, that kind of in and out, managing distance kind of style. What are your thoughts about him using? I mean, obviously, in my opinion, they're not exactly on the same level. What are your thoughts about Tyron's camp using Sage Northcutt to emulate Wonderboy?
I think it's a very smart thing. I mean, Northcutt, his kicks are crazy. So powerful, so explosive, the same as Wonderboy. So, yeah, you're right. Wonderboy is more seasoned and he has a little bit more variety. Yet you don't know. I think Sage Northcutt can imitate pretty much anything. You know, so at least as he can imitate those kicks, that will be great. The question is with Wonderboy, you never know when it's a distraction kick or a hard kick. You know, he throws such a variety of different kicks, and he uses a setup kick, and boom, somebody has a hard kick, and then a setup kick and two setup kicks, and there's also no patterns with him. Well, you know, it's not like he does one thing. You know, it's constantly, it's a different pattern.
He's switching it up. That is so true.
To understand.
Well, and it's interesting because obviously watching that fight back, you know, obviously Steven's main strengths are managing distance, strikes, etc. And after Tyron took him down in that first round, not only did Tyron not shoot anymore, Steven kind of was a little more gun shy based off of that success of that first takedown. It was kind of weird. That's why I told Steven, it's like weird. After that first takedown, neither of you guys did what you normally do. Tyron stopped taking you down and you stopped throwing kicks and, you know, got a little gun shy.
Yeah, it's weird how that goes, but it's normal. Also, after the big punch that Tyron landed, also. You know, but that's what I'm saying. It's very hard to shake these things off, and that goes back to the Ronda Rousey thing. You know, it's very hard to shake these things off because they happened before. And then you go, what if I do it again? And you know, you can't let yourself be controlled by that. You got to say. You know, I remember this is what I told my students a long time ago. I had this a few times. I had it on the diving boards because I swam every day for my asthma. So every morning before I went to school, I was swimming. But I was really good at the diving board as well. Well, really good. I just do somersaults and contra and all these crazy things. I'm not a guy who can really. 1 second, let me turn this alarm off. Who can do anything? That's not me. But I was cool. For the regular people, I did a whole bunch of crazy stuff. You know, but what happens is if you do that from a high diving board, you know, there's times that you fall flat. You know, and that hurts. And at the time, the people there who helped me, they said, you got to go up right now and do it again. I go, no, man, I'm in pain. He says, Bas, if you don't do it now, you're not going to do it anymore. You got to do it now, right now again. And I had the same thing when I went, and that I took over. I remember I went with my bicycle to a corner, and there was sand in the corner, and I went really hard, and I fell. I slipped, boom, 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 and I made a big fall. And right away, I grabbed my bike, and I started biking back, and my friends are going, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to take a turn again now. Because otherwise I don't want to take a turn again anymore. I'm going to have to watch it. And you realize that when you take it the second time, it doesn't happen. You know, so if you have that mindset in a fight, you get rocked when you do something like when you think you give a left kick and you get rocked with the right hand. Let's say that happened. Mm-hmm. You know, then you can say, oh, well, no, maybe I shouldn't throw the left kick anymore. No, this is the time now when to throw a left kick, but make sure your defense is up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily mean that it can happen again.
Yeah.
You just have to be a little bit more careful. And that's in the fight. And once you start overthinking things, you say, oh, I moved in and it was a right hand, but it could also be a takedown. Okay, now you're in the fighter's head. And
yes.
overthinking
it.
That's what you want to be, overthinking. And then you're shutting him down. That's how
you are not water, my friend. You are not being like water.
That's it.
That is so true. I mean, that's interesting, champ. Like that's the mindset, man. It's, so much of this, you could have all the physical attributes in the world, but if your mind is not there, it almost completely overcompensates, or not overcompensates, but like takes over the physical stuff. Interesting.
Yep. Everything is in the mind. Everything. It's a decision to go to train in the morning.
Yes. Yes.
So
I was just talking to somebody about that. You could be as motivated as you want, but motivation goes away. And what happens when motivation goes away? You have to have discipline. And if you do not have that, and that, like you said, is all in the mind.
That's it, man. It's the mind plays tricks on you with everything. You always go to the negative. Always. Everybody does that. You get 100 good tweets.
Yeah.
You get one bad one. People focus on the bad one. Like, dude, again, I always go, these are guys' opinions. Most of the time they're fake guys because they don't have the balls to say it in your face. So they're create a fake account. I mean, just that you get angry about that.
Yes.
Just really think about what you're doing. Again,
Right.
It's an opinion. It doesn't mean anything. And look where it comes from. If people like my peers, like if a Pat Miletich would say, oh, you know what, Boss's kicks, they really sucked, or something like that, now you're going to pay attention, because this is the moment that you want to, that's another professional fighter. Now you better listen.
Right.
But anybody else who never fought before, you really think I care about what they're saying to me?
He's sitting in his armchair with Cheetos and a beer, and probably never fought in his life.
Yeah, but you will always have them, and I'm happy that people like that are there, because they really make my life much funnier. I with really bad tweets, it's like almost a Jimmy Kimmel segment here. I literally stop the house. I go, whoa, everybody, please listen, and I read them out loud, because then we can all laugh about it, because people are so stupid.
That's awesome, dude. That is
hilarious.
So awesome.
So keep them coming. That's what I always say.
You say it again. What was that?
I always say to the bullies, keep them coming, dude.
Yeah.
Please send me those bad tweets, because you have no clue. I will never react to them. Just know that you're not going to get any little bit of light from me.
Right.
So give a little attention. That's not going to happen. But I read them, and I thoroughly enjoy them always. So please keep them coming.
Little comic relief. Yeah, people can be assholes, man. So it's cool that you take that, take the higher road. But of course, you're freaking Bas Rutten, man. Brother, I cannot begin. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to keep you so long. My notebook here, I'm like, man, am I going to be able to get to all these points? And I'm glad I got to pretty much most of them. Thank you so very much for your time, my friend. It was awesome, really, to meet you a couple weeks ago. Hopefully we run each other again sometime. And anything you want to shout out? Any social media? Where can we find some Bas Rutten?
Yeah, the first thing is a long training device that I invented. It's called the O2 Trainer. Really look into that. You read the reviews from the people. It's insane what it does. I'm going to come out with 18 medical journals, published journals, in where people are going to freak in a little bit what it does for you. It increases stamina. What you can do, what you can do with the auto training, you cannot do even with EPO. It's that good. But you're going to have to work out with it for 6 weeks, and then it's only 3 minutes in the morning. 3.5 minutes, that's what it takes. First 6 weeks, you have to do it 2 times a day, and after 6 weeks, just 1 time a day. It takes care of all the lactic acids in your whole respiratory system. So, for people who really know what they're talking about, that means the muscles all stay relaxed in the core, so you can keep on going just like you're doing in training. It's a huge thing. Wait till all the journals come out. People are going to freak out, but look into it, because I guarantee you'll love me for it. If you're a singer, a horn instrument player, a scuba diver, yoga practitioner, or just an athlete, or an asthma patient. I haven't used my inhaler since I started training with the prototype, which is now about 5 years ago.
That's
Zero
awesome.
asthma, and I was a severe asthma patient, always carrying an inhaler with me everywhere I went in the entire world.
Which is crazy, because I don't know how you do 30-minute rounds in Pride having asthma. I don't know how that happens.
But you see, and that was with Always. I had in the dressing room open up my lungs with my inhaler, and that's gone. Everything's completely gone. My friends, everybody on the website you'll read. I cannot medically prove it yet, but it's coming now. That it cures asthma.
Well, and that's
pretty much it.
That's awesome.
The body action system.
I was just going to say, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I love that device, bodyactionsystem.com, B-A-S, it's here, Body Action System, Bas. It's a really cool little device. And then I say Rutten and Brunello. That's our podcast for Mauro Ranello and myself.
Bas Rutten and Mauro Ranello! That was my best Ranello
voice.
That was my best Ranello impression.
This guy, everybody goes to me. He says, "Yeah, I don't like his voice." I say, "Yeah, that sucks for him because he wakes up in the morning like that, exactly like."
Dude, that guy's everywhere.
Well, you don't think? Oh, he doesn't make that voice? Are you kidding? People think that he makes that voice up. That he suddenly talks like this.
Dude, that's straight legit. Yeah, I'm a huge wrestling fan. Like I asked you, I'm like, how the fuck's he doing everything he's doing? Freaking SmackDown, UFC. I mean, you guys are everywhere. That's why I tell Pat Miletich kicking his butt. We're hard pressed to get a show off every week, and Bas is like, dude, I'm doing like 2 shows. I'm everywhere. I'm like, no excuses, Pat. We're on it. No more excuses. It's all love, Pat. It's all love. So thank you again, brother, so very much, man. Continued success, brother. I believe me, this was like a huge bucket list. I'm about to have a drink and just pinch myself that this actually happened. Bas Rutten, former UFC heavyweight champion, Pancrase 3 times champion, proprietor of the Bas Action System. I mean, dude, I don't even know. The list could go on, but thank you so very much, sir, and continued success.
You're very welcome, my friend. Thank you, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Bas Rutten, ladies and gentlemen, continue to support the show. There will be more.